It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to the program. It's Jill on Money. We are delighted that you are here with us. It really is. It's a joy. It's the best part of my week. Hanging with Mark, hanging with you guys. The best. We are broadcasting live from the Capital One studios. Capital One, what's in your wallet? And we love to start the program with a call. If you've got a financial question, we will always answer your emails. It may take a while, let's be honest. We're planning a big Thanksgiving show extravaganza where we're just going to bang out emails. But that said, the nice thing to do is if you want to really move up on top of the list of the emails, send us an email and say, I want to come on the show with you. Because Mark just likes the live aspect. We love to hear your voices. We want to hear your stories. It's so much better. So send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com, askjill@jillonmoney.com, or you can always get to us through the website, jillonmoney.com. You can click on the contact button in the upper right corner. Okay, but today we are starting with Mike, who is calling from Buffalo and listens to us on WBEN, one of my favorite stations in the country. Hello, Mike. What can I do for you?
Hey, good morning, Jill. How you doing today?
Great. What's up?
Hey, so recently I have looked at the way my 401k is set up.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had it in aggressive, maybe a little too aggressive, if you will. I had it at 95% stock, 5% bonds. And last year was not a very good year per se. And so this year here, there's been a substantial rebound. So I'm made whole for what I would have lost last year, if you will.
Yeah, sure.
And so I looked at it, and when I take the risk assessment, it comes back that I should be an aggressive. But I have just a tad of an uncomfortable feeling, so I recently rebalanced it to a moderate perspective.
Okay.
And I just kind of wonder if that's the right decision based on, age and where I'm at.
Okay. So how old are you?
I am 54.
Married, single?
Married.
Okay. And how much do you guys make together?
Household income is right around $200K.
And that's a good number. You guys are living well on that?
We are. We live well below our means.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. House?
Paid for.
Okay, good. And kids?
One child, well, I say child, one daughter, mid-30s, married, very successful executive-level career, as does her husband,
mm-hmm.
and recently a grandfather.
Nice. So just one kid and one grandchild.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Fantastic. Okay. And living below your means would mean to me that you've probably got socked away a bunch of money. So tell me about the socking away part of this. So we have this 401k. How much money's in the 401k?
The 401k has a little over $300K in it.
Okay. And does your wife also work with a place with a 401k?
She does.
Okay. How much is in hers?
I think $130.
Great. Okay. What else do you have in savings?
Well, I was a late bloomer. I didn't start becoming a little responsible until I aged a little bit, if you will.
Okay.
We have liquid and savings and checking roughly around $200K.
Okay.
We have an external equity interest in a business that the shares are worth roughly $600K.
This is wait a second. This is an illiquid stock investment. It's not a listed security, right?
It is a business that we started many years ago. That we have divested a percentage of it. We maintain an equity stake in it, which gives us a K1 distribution of about $20,000 a year.
Okay.
If we retain some of the stock. The intent is to take that to retirement, at which time we'll, barring any issues, we'll liquidate our equity stock in that.
Got it. Okay. This is all terrific. What else you got?
I have a whole life policy. Don't yell at me.
I'm not yelling. Did you hear me yell? I didn't yell.
That I started many, many years ago. That at retirement, it'll generate roughly around $50K a year for 10 years.
You know what? Since you have it and it's old, chances are, which company is it with, just out of curiosity?
Gosh. Well, there's only two big ones. Name one of the two and I'll tell you.
Northwestern Mutual, MetLife, could be Lincoln Financial, could be a million different things. But it's a whole life policy. Chances are it's with a decent company, and if it's a big one, and you already have the money in there, so we're not going to do anything with that. But that's like a nice chunk of money because, as you said, it will have a cash value. You can turn the spigot on and borrow against it, and that's good. Okay, this is all very interesting. And anything else that we're missing here?
Just currently, we save roughly about $50K a year. That started around 3 years ago after all our debts were paid off. Let me just look here. I think that's roughly about it.
All right, I'm just going to...
Yes. As far as our 401ks, we both maxed out.
Good.
I am 100% Roth as of 18 months ago.
Oh, good.
And I do the catch-up provision as well. And then my wife does 50% traditional, 50% Roth.
That's great. Okay, so liquid $200,000, $300,000 in 401ks. Now it's starting to be some Roth. Wife has $130,000, $600,000 in a closely held company, which hopefully gets liquidated. But for now, you get the $20,000 a year. You got the whole life policy, which is got a good chunk of cash value. You're saving $50,000 a year. House is paid for, so all of this is good. Now, in terms of the aggressive versus the balanced, here's what I think. I think going into a more moderate, in the moderate portfolio for me inside of your 401k, how much? Just like what does it break down to? Like when you put it to work, you said you were 95% stocks, 5% bonds. What are you now?
With the rebalancing, I'm 30% bonds. Let me just look at my notes here. 6% cash, 64% stocks.
Okay. All right. This is all very good. And what we're going to do is we got to go for a quick break. But when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about this allocation and whether or not this makes sense for you. Part of it has to do with, the way you're answering the question is not somehow jibing. The risk assessment is not jibing with like this overall desire for you to reduce some of the risk. So that might be part of the problem with the actual questions they're asking. But I think that this is probably pretty easily sussed out. I think you're in great shape. But when we come back from the break, we're going to keep talking to Mike, walk him through his allocation decision, and see if there's anything else going on in that financial life that needs our addressing. You're listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a question, like Mike, just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Hey, during this break, hop onto the website, jillonmoney.com. Sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. You know what's coming up? The holidays are coming up. And as a result, I think it might behoove you to get a jump on your holiday shopping. You know how you can do that? This is the shameless plug section of the show. Go to the website, jillonmoney.com. Buy my book. You can get it for all your friends and family members. It's called The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. Isn't that lovely? We all do them. So we're going to figure it out. Hey, I think, Mark, oddly enough, this morning, I think I had an idea for a second book, even though I said I'd never write one. I know. But I think I got an idea. I know. I don't even want to say it out loud because it would be so stupid of me to do that again. It was awful writing that book. It was horrible. Ugh. Oh, maybe I'll just clam up. Okay, let's go back to Mike. He's on the line from Buffalo. Mike's got an awesome life. He's 54 years old. He and his wife make about $200,000 a year. They're saving $50,000 a year on that $200,000. One grown adult child who's doing well, got a grandchild. That's good. Just changed his account in his 401k from an aggressive growth to a more balanced portfolio. A couple $100,000 in the bank. 401k, his 401k is $300,000. His wife's is $130,000. Got an investment in a non-public company that's worth like $600,000. It's spinning off income. Whole life policy going to spin off income. All good, Mike. You're rocking and rolling. This is great.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to buy your book when we're done. Thanks for the plug on there.
There you go. Okay. So the big question you're coming in asking is about this going from aggressive growth to balanced. So, I mean, if you answered the questions that in the risk assessment, and, you're still coming up as they're saying, the way you're answering it is aggressive growth, but you were what happened last year is that, all the markets went down. It was very weird. But did you feel panicky last year? Like, what happened for you that made you, you just sort of said, whoo, dodged a bullet between last year and this year. Things are great. I took the risk, and now I really don't want to do it again. I'm just worried that you're going to switch back if conditions change.
Yeah, I think there's a couple outlying factors. One, I've probably over the last couple of years have paid more attention than I previously had, and probably some of that is due to age.
Yeah.
And then secondly, now I'm looking at, what do I need to do to secure a future for the grandchild? The mother and father of the child are doing quite well, but I want to do something as well. So I'm trying to be a little more fiscally responsible, if you will.
You're being totally responsible. You got all this money saved. You've done a fantastic job. Okay, here's what I would say. The balanced portfolio that you have is perfect. Basically, essentially a 65-35 portfolio is, a balanced portfolio. That's fine. It's totally fine. In fact, I would say that just because you have that large illiquid position that generates that, that K1 of $20,000 a year, that would suggest you should be a little bit more on the balanced end rather than the growth end in your 401k. Because in other words, if that $600,000 were liquid, right, and you were just investing that in a balanced portfolio, and then you may I could make a case for you being more aggressive. But when I look at your situation, the picture you're painting is you've done a great job of saving. You continue to save. You live beneath your means. So all of this is good. So I think the balanced portfolio is perfect. Don't do much to it. And I would have that also be maybe your wife's 401k be similar, right? Just like a more balanced, tilting a little bit more growth. You'll call us back in a few years when as you get older. In terms of how to help the grandchild, what are you thinking? Are you thinking, is this like first of all, you said your adult daughter is married and she and her husband are doing well and making plenty of money, but you want to do something for the grandchild. Are we talking about an education fund?
Not necessarily. The parents, number one, the kid, we don't know if the child will make that choice or not. And the way the parents also live below their means, they're certainly in a position to take care of that.
Okay.
I'm just looking at something that would continue to break the cycle of poverty. I say that a little bit tongue-in-cheek because, we've grown up on very, very humble beginnings. And we put forth a lot of sweat equity to get out of those humble beginnings. So I want to make sure this continues on for the next generation. And I wanted to do something with some covenants on there so the individual will be fiscally responsible as he matures in life. So when he gets to a certain age, I wanted a upstart amount of money to be available to this individual, the grandchild.
Individual, also known as your grandchild. All right. So how much money do you want to put in there for the kid?
I wanted to start, at least in my opinion, just in case they have 8 more kids, because I'll have to do an adjustment when I say that.
Right.
But I have to look at, what it'll be for all the grandchildren.
Right.
But I was considering $2,500 down, $250 a month up until the individual was 20, 21.
All right, that's fine. That seems fine. I mean, you could do it in one fell swoop if you want. You think they're going to have more kids?
I think the chance of them having one more is split 90% certainty.
Okay.
I think that's their target.
Yep. All right. So fine. That's fine. I mean, you can do, look, you can just have a separate account that you set up, like an UTMA or an UGMA account of some sort. But just know that, life's funny, right? Meaning that you could set that account up and that kid decides, like, I'm not going to college. I'm grabbing the money. I'm going on a motorcycle cross country. Thanks, Grandpa. That's awesome. So you lose the ability to control that money when the kid gets to the age of majority, all right? So if you want to do something where you have more control, you could certainly just set up a separate account, just a non-retirement account, and you can deal with this all through your estate planning. You could say, I have this account. It's set up for this kid. It, is intended to go to the kid, and you go from there. But I'm not a huge fan of just putting money in a kid's name because you don't know, right? And I think that if you want to create some sort of legacy, the legacy you can create is probably better contemplated as the kid gets older and you figure out who this kid is. Because it may be that you're like, you know what? I want to do something different for the kid, or I want to, this kid is, I want to start putting money into a Roth IRA if that still exists, because that's going to be an important thing. But, I think that right now, putting the money aside in the kid's name, I don't know if that makes a ton of sense. Unless it's a 529 plan, and then it's just focusing on education. But, I mean, maybe you should talk to your daughter and son-in-law and say, hey, tell me what you guys are doing for education. Maybe I can contribute to that, maybe not, but I want to, just so I know, maybe that's something you could do. New York has a very good education savings plan. But I think that, I would caution you from creating an account where you've put money into the child's name, not knowing really what's up with this kid. I'm sure the kid's going to be great, brilliant, all that. But I think that keep it simple for now and talk to your daughter and get that information. And also, just do me one favor, and that is that as you have all this money and you're looking at things going forward, maybe also is a good time to dust off your old estate documents and make sure you go see a qualified estate attorney and make sure that everything is as you wish. Maybe that's one thing that you could potentially do, which is for the kid right now, instead of creating a whole separate account, maybe you say, hey, my Roth 401k, I'll make the kid the beneficiary of that. That's a good thing to do. It's a great asset to inherit for long term. But talk to an attorney, and thank you so much for calling Mike from Buffalo. And we very much appreciate it. It's so cool that you have done as much as you've done. So congratulations. If you, like Mike and his wife, would like some help on your allocation, your retirement planning, your desire to gift to your grandkids, give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. And during the break, hop onto the website JillOnMoney.com and you can subscribe to our sister broadcast. It's called Jill on Money. Yay! Same name. Easy. All right, we'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And if you want to get more Jill, like more cowbell, and more Mark, like more cowbell, just go to JillOnMoney.com. You can listen to past shows, or maybe if you missed any part of this one so far, maybe you'd like to watch some segments that I've done recently on CBS This Morning or Evening News, or perhaps you just want to sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We can do it all for you at JillOnMoney.com. Also, while you're there, you can always click the contact button And that is a way we can get emails as well. Okay, here is a question from Scott, who says, our retirement plans are in good shape, so now we are focusing on saving for college. We've got 2 kids, 6th and 8th grades. We contribute to our state's 529 plan to get the maximum tax benefit, which in our case, $8,000 per year per child. We're only in year 3, and we're really behind. Don't go crazy. Here's the real issue. Our state's 529 is not a well-performing plan. I'm wondering, can I contribute additional money to another state's plan that is high-performing? I really hate to do that, especially with a state income tax deduction. So maybe we've got to make different choices within your plan. Can you tell me what state? Can you follow up with me? Tell me what state that you're in. Then I can look at the plan and see which of the funds might be worth looking at for you. The question is there a recommended percentage goal when funding college plans? I hate to contribute 100% only to have my child get a scholarship. Yeah, that would be a terrible problem, wouldn't it? 75%, would that be prudent? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even worry that much. It depends how much money you have and what else is going on. You know, you could do 50 to 75%. If you have so much cash flow that you can actually do this, I think what would be interesting to consider is, you know, is there something else you might be thinking about for the rest of your money? So I want a little bit more information, if you don't mind. Okay. All right. Question from Bruce. I've been burned by more than one financial advisor. I took over my accounts. I moved them into dividend growers, REITs, utilities, bond exchange traded funds. My average dividend and interest, 4.2%. Hoo-wah. That's a good number. Nearly all the money, $1.2 million, is in IRAs. That money plus Social Security pays all of our bills and covers extra expenses to help our kids out of financial jams. Tell me where I'm going wrong. Why should I? You seem to be going all right. I've been to financial managers who say that what I'm doing can't work, but no one can point to any study and explain why. I'm left to suspect that no one else makes any income off my nest egg. I also think that selling off 4% of your equities every year is akin to eating your seed corn. I haven't had to sell even one share of stock yet in 5 years. I would say that this is great, and I'm going to give you one caveat. The last 5 years have been very good years in the market. So what's going to happen is that when we go into the next bear market, you're not going to have this kind of yield, or the actual principal will go down. So that's going to be when you test out your theory. I wouldn't have 100% of my money in all of that, but that being said, I don't know, you've got bonds. Everything seems kind of fine to me. I wouldn't go crazy. No doom and gloom. Or as Boris Johnson would say, the gloomsters, the doomsters. Like that. Okay. This is Victor from Chicago. So he talks about how he was sad about when Bob Brinker's Money Talk program went off the air. And then he said, I listened to your show when I was in Denver, and I found out that it's not on in Chicago. Can you believe that? I listen to you and Mark every Sunday. It's educational and entertaining. I love your Yiddish quips. Much success to you and yours. Bye. Thank you. Yeah, what about Chicago? Gosh darn it. I'm going to find out. Get on these people. Thank you for that note. Makes us feel good. Bernie's 70 years old. Due to financial problems about 15 years ago, he was unable to keep paying on his life insurance. Okay, so he says, I've looked and applied online. I get so many phone calls and emails. It seems like one big scam to me. He says, legitimate insurance companies don't act this way, do they? Plus, I notice a lot of them are burial insurance, not life insurance. It's got to be a scam. Can someone my age get life insurance without taking a physical? No, probably not. I mean, you're 70 years old. The question is, do you need life insurance? Let's go there. Maybe you don't. I would really want to know more about your situation. Follow up with me. Come on, let's get some more information and determine whether or not you really need life insurance. Gary writes, I was on your CEO Next Door and retirement planning show in March of 2018. I was Mark from Buffalo. We discussed my plans to limit working and having more time semi-retired. It worked out really well. I'm enjoying a lot more time with my family and having time for me. I lucked out immediately. My employer, upon hearing of my plan to retire, offered me a part-time opportunity, 10 to 12 hours a week. It's worked really well. My planning was accurate. I find my income needs are easily being met. We tend to overestimate. I'm actually able to save a small amount per month and living well. Thanks for the help. Gary or Mark from Buffalo, whichever name he was using at the time. Okay, Mark from Buffalo. That's nice. I like when we do right by these folks, right? It's pretty good. Question from James. Do you look at let's see. I now have Fidelity managed accounts. Should I switch away from Fidelity? Do I, Jill, manage accounts? No, I don't. But if you're not happy with Fidelity, then you should let me know and find out why, and then maybe we can help you out. Becky wants to know, okay, hey, how can I find someone to explain whole life insurance? I had to borrow against it. I didn't realize I had to pay it back. I believe the salesman misled us, or I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't want to ask my agent. There it is, not asking questions. Look, whole life insurance is a very thorny thing. If you're doing anything with it, you've got to ask a ton of questions. Everyone else listening, heed Becky's advice. If you've got a question about your insurance, you want to know what questions to ask your agent or your advisor, why don't you let us know? We can help prep you. We can be like your super secret prep service. Just send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com, and we'll help you out. Do it right now. Okay, when you go onto the website, jillonmoney.com, don't forget, you can also buy my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Go to the website, jillonmoney.com. We've got a contact button in the upper right corner. And otherwise, yell us out. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're at Jill on Money. That's us. Okay, Roy wants to know about dividend investing for income. We just had a question about that, the pros and cons. You know, income investing is great, but it doesn't mean just because you're investing for income does not mean you don't have risk in your portfolio. So like everything else, what I want to remind everyone is that no single asset or asset class is the answer to all of your questions or your issues, or will wring out all the problems or risks that you would confront as an investor. That's why we like to have a diversified portfolio. So some growth and maybe some income and dividends. The big downside to these types of investments is that if they're held outside of a retirement account, you've got taxable income. So we always want to make sure we keep an eye on that. Mary Beth writes, I'm 69 years old. I go to work every day. I'm employed with my company for, wait for it, 49 years. She started collecting Social Security at age 66. My question, when I stop working, will my Social Security check increase? I don't know. I don't understand that because I'm not sure. I think if you started collecting Social Security at 66, then that amount is that amount. I don't know. I don't know about that. You have to ask Social Security. I'm not sure I know the answer to that question. Okay, here's a question from Hema who says, my husband and I have a home mortgage balance, $200,000, 3.625%. We can pay this off without touching our emergency reserves. We don't see a need to keep this mortgage, but we're unaware of any other financial considerations. We've got no other debt. Our other major expense is childcare. Both of us are working. What would you recommend? I hate to leave. Okay, $200,000 at 3.625, and if you pay it off, you're getting your 3.5% or 4% return. Could you do something else with this money that might be better for you? Could you're paying for childcare. Could you use that money that's sitting around, that $200,000, and put it into a 529 plan? Are you guys maxing out your retirement contributions? It really depends what my alternatives are. So I don't want to weigh in. That's the big question. Question here from Jerry. I've been after my husband to buy life insurance for years. He's got a hefty policy. We had to drop it. We're 76 and 78. Mark, do you have the klaxon ready for me about life insurance or not? All right, hold on. Play that little blaring thing about life insurance. Yeah, like that. Okay. Is there any need for you at age 76 and 78 to go out and buy life insurance? Really? Do you have other assets? Can you not make a decision to buy life insurance at this point before we hear more from you? Please, 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 please don't do this without more conversation. Get back in touch with us. Edward wants to know, are there any rules of thumb to guide you when to sell stocks that have appreciated in value? Or conversely, is there a loss percentage when you should unload a stock? This question is with regard to taxable portfolios, also non-Roth IRA portfolios. First of all, if they're non-Roth accounts, we're not worrying about tax implications. I'm retired, I pay estimated taxes. I have a state with income tax. The rule of thumb is this. I am not an individual stock picker or individual security picker. However, what I would do is every time I'm looking at my portfolio, I would not be looking at a holding as anything more than a means to an end. So if something has lost value, but it's still a holding that you want to have, for example, if you own a emerging market fund and it's part of your portfolio, then selling it doesn't make a lot of sense. However, if you're selling at the end of the year for tax purposes in a taxable account, it's kind of a good thing to make these bigger decisions. I would really like to know more about what else is in your portfolio. And if you're just a stock picker, is this your fund money or not? I don't know. I need more info. Dennis has got a property. He's owned it for more than a year, less than 2. Would like to sell it. And he knows he's going to pay long-term capital gains. If my taxable income is $30,000 and I make $100,000 of the sale of the home, how much capital gains will I pay? I filed married. She doesn't work. From what I understand, the first $77,000 is tax-free, including my taxable income. Okay, let's do this quickly. Long-term capital gains rates for married filing jointly up to $78,750. You pay 0% long-term capital gains rates. From $78,751 up to $488 in income, you pay 15%. So that's the deal. So I think that you're going to end up paying 0% up to that 78 and a little bit more. And that's going to be pretty great because you're not going to pay a lot of money on all of this. I've been blasting through these, huh, Mark? I got to breathe. Break time. He says it's break time. All right, let's get to the break. All right, when we come back, we're going to do, I got that short segment, so let me pick out a nice short question from a couple of you guys. If you've got a question, send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. So easy. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And we are broadcasting live from the Capital One studios. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Here, I love this message from Mark, who subject line reads, I'm reading it verbatim. I hope I don't get bleeped out on this, Mark. Subject, dumbass dentist dad. I love it. Could be the best email of the month. Hi, Jill. I just bought your book and read the inside cover. I'm a dentist who should have been able to retire early. Many bad decisions have led to a mountain of debt and, most importantly, joy-sucking financial anxiety. I'm about to sell my remaining 2 dental practices. I need help figuring out what to do with the proceeds that is smart. I see that you are a CFP. Are you taking new clients? No, I'm not. But I know some really smart people. And so, Mark, what would be great is if maybe we could follow up with you with some suggestions. You can go to letsmakeaplan.org. That's the CFP board website. You can go to NAPFA, NAPFA.org. That's for fee only. And if you give us a few more details, how much money and stuff like that, I just think that it's really important that we match you up with the right person. Okay, here's a message from Keith before we go. I work at a public library. A patron returned your book and immediately checked it out. A smart move. By the way, go buy the book. You got to take it out in the library? Come on. Girls got to eat. Just kidding. Okay, I'm approaching retirement now and evaluating my financial situation. I've managed my own money without professional help all my life, made more dumb than smart moves, learned from most of my mistakes. I continue to educate myself. I just wanted to let you know that I found reading your book a great investment of my time and will share your sensible advice with my wife, who's also Jill. Only regret is that you are not a financial advisor located in my community. C'est la vie. Thanks and best of luck, Keith. Hey, thanks for that nice note. Everyone else out there, you can buy the book too. It's so easy. Go to my website, JillOnMoney.com. The book is The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. 13 ways to right your financial wrongs. We'll probably talk about some of them next hour, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome back. It's hour number 2 of Jill on Money. We are delighted you are joining us. We are broadcasting live from the Policy Genius studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Just go to policygenius.com. I really have Mark, when are we going to do what we said we're going to do? Is that going to be for are we going to have something extended for this hour, or are we going to do it at a different point? All right. Do you want to hop in here and do that? We're going to do it later. Okay. We got keep listening. We've got a special surprise for you. That's what I have to say. This is going to be a great hour. Fantastic. All right. This is a program that takes the mystery out of your financial life, but only if you send us an email with your question. It could be any financial question. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. I've been kind of digging this idea that we are spending time talking about how to make yourself better at work just because we spend so much time there. And if you can figure out how to have more fun and be more productive and kind of, show your boss that you're more than just this, sort of asset and liability sheet. And at the end of the day, it's your, this is what your salary is. Something more than that. So we've got a great guest. Her name is Tania Katan. She wrote a book called Creative Trespassing, a totally unauthorized guide to unleashing your inner rebel and sneaking more imagination into your life and work. So, why'd you do that?
Yeah, so I actually have been speaking publicly and in companies and corporations and organizations for years and about creativity in the workspace.
How did you get into that?
It started when I started making some programs at a contemporary art museum that were wilder than the typical programs. So, do you go to contemporary art museums?
Yes, I do. I have been to many.
Okay, I don't doubt this. I'm asking.
I like that, but I like that you asked. Yes, I have been to many.
Okay, so before I would go, I grew up very poor and with a single mommy.
Wait, where'd you grow up?
Phoenix, Arizona.
A Jewess in Phoenix? Wow.
I did not fit in any way. I'm just saying.
Not even Scottsdale.
I,
Phoenix?
you're so funny. Well, we were really poor.
So you couldn't be in Scottsdale.
No, not unless Section 8 housing supported it.
Hold on. I need to go back a second.
Yes,
we
please.
need the Tania origin
God.
story. You were born in Phoenix?
Born in New York.
Uh-huh.
My dad, New York cabbie. My mom, an aspiring social worker.
Okay.
They divorced. And my mom wanted to just be as far away from my dad as possible. And she had family in Arizona. So she moved us kids to Arizona.
And so you moved to Phoenix. You're poor. Mom's struggling. How is she supporting you guys?
So this is where I learned actually that creativity is currency. We would have friends who really had money, and when summer camp came around, we wanted to go, and our friends were going. We couldn't afford it, so my mom bartered her skills as a cook for the camp so that we could go to summer camp.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And then she also taught art making classes so we could go to other summer camps. And and at first I was like embarrassed. It's like, oh my gosh, my mom's the cook, you know. And then when they tasted her food, they're like, your mom's awesome. So I realized that creativity had currency.
But she also had, your mom had some moxie and some guts and smarts that she took the skills she had and said, wait, how am I going to help my kids? And used it. That's so brilliant.
Yeah, totally. She's a survivor and a thriver. She didn't let obstacles stand in her way. And she was like a mama bear. She was going to let her kids starve or not be able to do things in the world.
Now, where is she from originally?
France.
So she grew up in France?
She spent the first 13 years of her life in France.
How's your French?
Tu parles français un petit peu.
That sounds pretty good, though.
Thank you.
Got the accent down.
Well, I know how to basically insult people in 3 different languages and then apologize in 2.
So you went to get a theater degree.
Yes.
And where did you go to do that?
I went to Arizona State University.
All right, ASU. Look at
I know.
who's there.
Go Sun Devils. Yeah.
Okay.
I went because I lived in Arizona, and again, having an immigrant mom, who didn't have a degree. Nobody had a degree in my family. She's like, "Well, figure it out on your own." And I'm like, "Oh, there's a university nearby. Maybe I should apply."
And for free? Is that a state school that you got?
I wish it was.
It's not.
It's not.
That's the
Just
very
ask my student loan company.
That's a very confusing thing, because why not go to University of Arizona, which is in Tucson?
That's not free either.
What's this big state school?
That's California.
But you don't have any state school where it's cheaper as an in-state
you can
residence?
go. Well, in-state residence, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
It ain't free.
Okay.
Just saying.
So you went and you got some debt and you studied theater, right?
Yes.
Then what was your first job out of school?
I wanted to actually work in theater. I trained in playwriting, and so I got a job interning at Phoenix Theater, helping them in development. The only problem was I didn't know anything about Excel spreadsheets, and my job was to reach out to donors and thank them.
Oh.
But I didn't know how to find the donors in the database, and then once I did, I think I thanked them for the wrong amount. So that didn't last very long.
No, not good.
Not
a
good at
good
all.
skill set match.
No.
What did you do after that?
After that, I really wanted to go into theater, so I left. I got an internship in San Francisco at a lifestyle magazine and went there and started writing plays that were produced.
Wow.
I didn't realize, however, that I wasn't going to make a living writing plays. Yeah, it was even better. Then I jumped into all kinds of different jobs. I always had a slash mark. So it was playwright / barista.
Uh-huh.
Playwright / print broker. I worked lots of different jobs and industries.
It's funny. So you're this very creative type with obviously a creative mother, because she's a cook. So she is we'll get to your father in a second, because it's a fascinating study for me. You have this creative, let's say genetic predisposition. But on the other hand, you're I have this creative thing, but I got to make a living. And so you have basically created a career where you've channeled that creativity and figured out a way to monetize it in a weird way, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so did that just sort of happen by accident, or did you say, wait a minute, I can't make a living as a playwright? What can I do next? How did this evolve?
Yeah, so I think it was actually after my 20s and literally working as a grocery store bagger and a barista and all these different jobs, I started to have this consciousness of like, what am I bringing to these jobs? Because I seem to be the same person and bringing in all these creative skills. It's just that the job is really different. The framework's really different. So, for example, when I used to bag groceries, I would engage my colleagues in little contests that were unofficial. I'd say, okay, how many grumpy customers can we make smile today? And that made the work go by faster, made it more fun. We didn't, lose money for the company. And so I realized, I have these skills that travel with me into different forms. And then that really blew my mind because I thought, well, we don't need to be like in a job or in an industry that's uniquely creative to be uniquely creative within our work.
Is that kind of your message, that wherever you are, you can be creative?
Absolutely.
And what about someone who says, I'm not creative, it doesn't matter?
A lot of people say that. And so creativity, I'm not talking about you need to be an artist or a painter or a writer. It's about using your imagination to create something.
Okay, wait 1 second. We'll get right back to Tania Katan. She's so great. During the break, why don't you go to the website, jillonmoney.com, and there you can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. And you can start getting your Christmas, Hanukkah, or whatever holiday list ticked off. Just buy a whole bunch of the book. The books. My book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. Best holiday gift ever. All right, we'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And we are delighted that you are with us. Remember, if you have a financial question, we are now coming into the portion of the year that I like to call the holiday crunch, but it's also the year-end money move crunch. There are so many things that you could do with your money. And it may start with something as simple as go onto the irs.gov website and use the withholding calculator to make sure that you have withheld enough money for your taxes in April. If you are self-employed, don't forget, you've got to make sure you've made those quarterly payments. If you haven't, you may want to actually get ahead of this. And don't wait till the IRS tells you haven't done it. Do it now. Now. Right now, we're going to go back to our interview with Tania Katan. And she's just so great. I spent some time with her out in Portland, Oregon over the summer because she was also speaking at the World Domination Summit sponsored by our friend Chris Guillebeau. And, I just like the idea that someone like Tania has the opportunity to walk into an organization and help them figure out how to kind of change the whole environment. And you'll see what I mean because she certainly has a very different perspective on what works in corporate America and what does not work. So here is more of our interview, or the end of our interview, I should say, with Tania Katan. So why does a company hire you right now to come in? What do you think the brass is seeking, and is it different than what you deliver?
What they want is a couple of things. One, a lot of companies, especially tech companies that are bringing me in, are all about innovation and about acceleration. So, coming up with new ideas and then executing on them and moving quickly. And so the second part is about alignment. Any company, they have their stated values. Here's what we believe, and they're writ large. And then there's the on the ground realities. And so I come in and I show them through my own work being embedded in companies and through artists, contemporary artists, and people they might not ever pursue or be aware of in the world. And I show how to make a connection between thought and form, between the idea and how we execute on it.
So when you go through this process in a workplace, where do you get pushback?
from every direction. That's actually, pushback is a sign that I'm on the right track. However, whenever I engage in creative trespassing when embedded in a company or organization, I'm always honoring the company, the mission, and the vision. It's about serving the greater good, not like serving me. So that's first and foremost. I get pushback. I remember making a video series for a contemporary art museum where I would run around and interview people, and I tried to win Employee of the Month, not earn it. The board of directors and concerned citizens and others were like, she's not working. Tanya's just having fun. And I said, as if the two are mutually exclusive. But what happened was I learned how to qualify and quantify what I was doing. So if I could show the numbers, I was hired to do X, Y, and Z, increase revenue streams, engage new audience members. And if I could show the numbers, which I did, then what can you say?
Then they'll leave you alone.
They will, and they'll actually encourage it.
Okay, there are 21 rules of creative trespassing. Doesn't
Who
sound
did
very...
that?
Yeah, you did that.
Oh my gosh, fantastic.
What do you want to give us your top three or
Gosh,
not?
yeah.
Here they are.
I
you're talking about fear. Do
so-
I have in the galleys? Do you have more than 21 in the final edition?
That's a great question. First of all, we made changes, and I even added a chapter after it was done. What? That's how I roll.
Oh
I embrace
my God,
change
you're
all the
insane.
time. I would say, well, I have two favorite. So the rules correspond with the chapters.
Yeah.
So fear is so last year. I love.
You like that. What? Because people are fearful about a million things. They're so
Yes.
scared to rock the boat. I guess that there is fear that is always bubbling beneath. There's fear of the unknown.
Well, right. And there's also two things. One, theater trained me to address fear because the foundation of theater is suspension of disbelief. So that's the whole idea of like you let go of your fear and your perceptions and assumptions and you take a leap of faith into an unknown world. So there you have it. That's a foundation for leaping into the unknown. And then also, I read Pema Chodron a lot, who's a Buddhist nun and teacher. And
Like everybody.
no, I mean, I don't know. Maybe everybody. This is I've listened to the show. It's highly intelligent and savvy and evolving people are listening. And she talks about it, in the face of fear, it's not about avoiding it. It's about going towards it and embracing it. Once you do, it dissolves. So, I thought, I don't fit into technology. I don't belong here. And it was because I was an outsider that I was able to see some of the issues and find solutions for them.
I like the fear one, but I also like you have a very in-depth conversation about listening. There are so many people who are just not in tune. Now, again, maybe that's because these are people who are not used to listening. They're used to reading from a screen. Maybe that's part of the issue. But sometimes, don't you find that you respond to something and there's no feedback from the person, and you assume that person heard you? There are so many times, even when I'm doing radio hits, somebody will ask me a question that I've just covered because they're trying to think forward and not being engaged in the moment.
Yes. I had to learn to listen. I was That's pre-technology, right? Until somebody said that I worked with was like, I can't explain anything to you. I'm like, what is wrong with you? You're so nasty. She's like, whenever I am trying to explain a process to you, you're just saying, like you already know it. And I was like, oh my gosh, and then for years, whenever I think of her, I'm like, she's just mean. And then one day I was aware that I was filling in the space between knowledge and learning with my and then I got conscious on what it means to listen. And as far as technology, because I wasn't weaned on it, I don't like to look or hold my phone. I don't like to have it near me, like we're sitting in front of each other. I don't have any technology here because I think that it is a barrier to listening and to speaking clearly and feeling like you have the time and space to respond organically as opposed to, I need to be thinking about the next thing.
Talk about how you have like some creative ways to bring creativity into a rote job. Let's say somebody's listening here. Someone's sitting at a desk or commuting to work and gets to a desk where all day long they have to, I don't know, copy edit. How can that person bring creativity or that type of role? How do you bring creativity to those kinds of jobs? Or maybe it's a coder, which can be creative, actually.
Totally, absolutely.
So what are some tips that you have that we can leave our dear listeners with? The world according to Tania.
So first of all, the easiest thing is to get up, to literally get up from your desk and go for a walk. Stanford did a study on walking and creativity, and by literally you being in motion, you're disrupting your habits and patterns that are actually keeping you stuck. And you will find that when you get back to your desk, even if you're taking a 5-10 minute walk, you will have more energy, focus, and creativity for your work.
Even inside the office.
Yeah, it's literally about getting up and moving your body. Because, think about what you're doing when you're stuck in this cycle of like, oh, I hate my job, or I can't solve this problem. You're sitting at your desk and you're typing away at your computer. You need to disrupt that action. So that's number one. And then two, in terms of taking breaks, assuming you have a break, I think legally lots of people should be having breaks. You can take a break that's creatively focused in nature. So for example, you can say, okay, 10-minute creative writing session. The topic is your mother's hands, go and just write. Or 10-minute dance break. The genre is hip hop, and dance for 10 minutes. So instead of taking a lot, I notice this a lot, especially in corporate culture, is people think that when they take a break, that they're not doing their job, their boss is going to look down on them, that they need to be working hard, but they're getting less work done. So in the book, I call these exercises productive disruptions, because actually taking a break from this, this stuck cycle will help you.
Well, thanks to Tania Katan for stopping by the studio and spending some time with us. The book is called Creative Trespassing. Check it out. And when we return, I think we're going to have our second guest live in the studio. It's very exciting. All right, stay tuned. It's Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And as promised, I have a second guest. So Tania Katan was not enough. No, we have to have another guest. And the reason that we have to have the other guest is something momentous has happened here in the Jill on Money universe. Something very important. I am now going, let me describe to you. Here comes the man walking into the studio. Our second guest is coming into the studio. He's now sitting down. There's the door of the studio. And he's pulling the microphone towards him. Mark Talercio, the executive producer of Jill on Money, the podcast and the radio show. Lean into the microphone and welcome to your show.
Why, hello, Jill. This is first time in 8 years?
I think you did one little snippet.
Yeah, but it was already shorter than this.
I know, right? Okay. You hate sitting here, don't you?
It's not my favorite thing in the world.
You like to be behind the glass running the show?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. I am having you seated here today to make you see what it feels like to be a guest on the Jill on Money show.
Well, now I see what everyone deals with this microphone.
Oh, you see? It's not just me.
It's a little limp.
All right. Mark, you're sitting in the chair today because something momentous has happened.
Mm-hmm.
You snuck behind my back,
mm-hmm.
and you rarely do that.
Mm-hmm.
You've cheated on me I'm not really...
In a good way, though.
In a really good way. So here's what happened, guys. Friday, I go off. It's my mom's 80th birthday lunch. And, Mark and I usually touch base at least once a day. I don't know, maybe it's a text, maybe we talk, but usually it's text or an email, etc. And later in the day, I say, hey, what's going on? I got to fill you in on something. And I don't hear from him. Very strange. And really strange. Now, in retrospect, I realize how strange that was, because you usually text me back within minutes, maybe like a half an hour most.
Maybe seconds.
Often before I even send it. You've responded already. You read my mind that well. So then later in the afternoon, you say to me, give me a call if you have a chance. I'm coming back from the big party for my mom, And I, of course, being a nervous Nelly, first thing I say, I call you and I said, "Is everything okay?" And you giggle a little bit because
I knew you would say that.
I know immediately. And so what is the news that you delivered to me?
That I took for the second time and passed the CFP exam.
Woo! Okay, now everybody, this is huge. Let me just be clear. Mark went to college for journalism.
Mm-hmm.
He spent how many years did you spend in radio specifically first?
Let me think about this for a hot second. Basically, like 12 years.
12 years in radio. Mark and I met when he was working at CBS Radio in the news division, and we were put together early and on a project. I think we did a year in review in 2009 after the horrible year in the markets. Although I had spoken to you previously throughout the year when you would interview me for the network. And that was like the beginning of our relationship. And then we started the radio show together. When did we start that?
Like January 2011.
January 2011. And we're like pushing 450, 460 shows, which is amazing. And then we launched the podcast. And by the way, Mark is cueing me that I only have 4 minutes left in this segment because he can't stand sitting here, making himself nuts. And then, Mark, you kind of why'd you get into this? You like the topic of personal finance, right?
Well, I didn't always like it. I got into it when you and I started working together, and I learned more and more about it and really discovered that this is kind of what I really enjoy most. I was kind of tired of doing general news, and I really took a strong liking to personal finance, and it kind of just grew and grew and grew.
And so then last year, at some point, you tell me you're going to take the CFP exam, and I'm like, you're nuts.
Right.
Right? Wasn't that my first reaction?
Yeah. I mean, it's not something I have to do, but it's, I decided I wanted to do it. If nothing else, it would just benefit me in my personal life, which it has. So I did all the coursework starting in February of 2017. That was when the coursework started.
Right.
Then, I sat for the first attempt.
Okay, but the first it was ridiculous because, you were about to have a baby, you had been sick, all these things happen, and then you come back and you're like freaking out. You're like, I failed.
I knew I failed.
And you knew it. And I said, you didn't, but you failed by like a ridiculous narrow margin.
I scored low in the investment category.
Very interesting, because I never spend any time talking about investments. I should have trained you better.
Well, it's all the calculations.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Okay. So then I figure you've dropped it because you have a baby.
Mm-hmm.
You got, your girl home.
Mm-hmm.
Then she's got to go back to work. And so when on earth did you study?
I studied starting in August each night after the baby went down for bed at night. I spent basically like from 7 to 10 o'clock each night studying for August, September, and October. Really ramped it up in October, and it worked. It paid off.
I can't believe it. So, and then the first thing I write is like, okay, we have to celebrate, and now you don't even have like a babysitter or something that we're gonna take the kid out with us,
that
right?
That would be no problem. He would have no problem coming along.
How do you feel?
I feel relieved. I feel like it's just completely nerve-wracking. You went through it. It's just completely nerve-wracking. When I saw the word pass on the screen, like I almost started to cry. It was.
I cried when you told me.
It was wild. It was very surreal. But as I was going through the exam, there were a couple of calculations that first time around I had no chance. This time I got them no problem. I said to myself, okay, I think you have a chance here. And
now we get to call you a CFP certificate because you don't have to satisfy the I'm doing financial planning. You come in under the journalism umbrella.
Yeah.
And so now, Mark, it's time for you to be added to the website, I believe. I think. Could you please send me a headshot and a bio?
Now that I got some credentials?
Yeah, exactly. You're not just the best executive producer in the world, but we are going to have to beef up that bio.
Okay, I can do that.
How do you feel about being on the mic right now?
It's no problem, no.
Do you want to come back and do it again?
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
You might have a new co-host.
I thank God. Jeez, he's leaving the studio now. Couldn't get up faster. Could not.
Over.
Segment is over. All right. That is no doubt my favorite interview of the whole year. And maybe for the existence of Jill on Money. I can't tell you guys how important Mark is and how instrumental he is to this show. Without him, there is no show. Absolutely, positively. He does everything. I just talk. So if you'd like to send Mark a congratulatory message, just send an email to askjill@jillonmoney.com. and we will be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And if you've got a question that's burning you up, keeping you up at night, or boring you to death, and so you want to get it off your plate, give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Robert writes, he's 86. His wife is 79. His wife has Alzheimer's. Oh, God. It just kills me. Such a terrible disease. They both have long-term care health insurance. That's great. Income is pension, Social Security, some money out of a Schwab account. They basically have about, let's call it, $68,000 a year in income. They've got $25,000 in checking and savings. We've got a 4-bedroom house. It's worth $650,000 with a mortgage of $187,000. And they've got basically $300,000 in an investment account. But here's the issue. That mortgage, $187,000, it's adjustable. It's a rate of 2.5%, which is quite low, right, until 2021. He says, my wife is presently in daycare 3 days a week. I've become the caregiver, meals, laundry, house maintenance, and our 2 daughters help out, but they've got families and work. My options appear to be stay put until 2021 and get another short-term mortgage on the house, sell the house and find something smaller on one level, sell the house and move into assisted living. Gosh. I mean, look, you've got a ton of equity in that house. So here's a question I have to you. Number one, would moving be realistic for you guys right now? Is it just too much? And if it is, that's okay. We just want to know whether or not it is too much. The second question would be is that can you keep her in this house because it sounds like it's a 4-bedroom house and maybe you really would rather be on one level. If you can sort of convert this house and you want to stay in the house and this is really where you want to be forever and ever, you've got 2 choices. One is you could conceivably refinance the house. Instead of having an adjustable rate, you might refinance it right now and do it that way. But you could also consider a reverse mortgage. I think this might be the best case I've heard, Mark, for a reverse mortgage in all of the years that we've been doing the show. But what I really think you ought to do in all of this is to try to sit down and talk to somebody who can help you out. A fee-only advisor, a CFP, somebody who can help you go through these options. And that somebody will probably be able to guide you. I think really this could be a reverse mortgage situation if you want to stay. If you want to move and you are going to go to a different kind of home, try to make sure you keep some of that money in cash, meaning that I wouldn't want you to just say, oh, I can buy a house and spend all the equity in my home. It would ideally be that you could buy something smaller on one level, have no mortgage, and maybe even save a little extra money. I hope that helps. Terrible situation. Kathy is recently retired. She's got to make a decision about $160,000 in accumulated deductions. She said, I will receive a monthly pension check of about $2,100. I've got no other retirement money. I've got $60,000 in credit card debt. I know I have to pay off the credit card debt. I'm going to use half of my retirement money to do that. My employer is telling me I have to open an IRA to transfer the remaining money. I know nothing about IRAs. I tried getting information online. It's confusing. Okay, all right. So you need to create a rollover IRA. If you can do this anywhere that you would like, you could essentially do it at a place like Vanguard or Fidelity or T. Rowe Price. You will and maybe just if you're confused, you do it at a place that has like a brick and mortar outlet. Like Fidelity actually has Fidelity offices. Maybe you go in there, you go in with your old pension, your $160,000 and all that paperwork. They open up an IRA rollover, and then what you do is you say to them, I must leave out of my $160,000. I must leave $60,000 in cash because it cannot be invested. Just know that when you take that money out, you may not want to do it all at once. Maybe you do it a little bit. Maybe you do half this year, half next year, because that's taxable to you. And you need to know that. Okay? Jay writes, thank you for your wisdom. I've got small Roth IRA accounts spread all over the place. Fidelity, Vanguard, TIAA, Schwab. Keeping track is hard. 2 questions. Is it a good idea to consolidate these in one place? Absolutely. The risk is that a company will fail, but are these companies too big to fail? Yeah, probably. If yes, any advice where I should consolidate them? You know what, Jay? I would go wherever you like them the most. I don't know if you can, I'm not sure you can consolidate at TIAA. But if they're all Roths, that's a good place to go for sure. But pick the one that you like. Maybe it's the interface that you like the best. Just pick the one that's easy, okay, and that you like. Very important. Just do it that way. Good? There we go. Okay. I think I'm done with that. Let's see if I have any more. State employee in Pennsylvania, 1 month short of turning 59. I'll have $100,000 in my lump sum. I will draw a monthly pension. What's the difference in taxes if I take the lump sum when I retire or wait 7 months when I turn 59 and a half? If you've got a lump sum, you don't have to take it in as cash. Can't you just roll it over into an IRA rollover account, Robert? If you can do that, there will be no difference. Then you can control how you will take it. So if you take the lump sum and you move it into a rollover account, I think you'll be completely perfect. Okay? All righty. When we come back, before we finish out this hour and this show, we will take more of your questions. It's Jill on Money. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at Jill on Money, and head to jillonmoney.com to get more of our great content. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. Before we go, want to remind you we are broadcasting live from the Policy Genius Studios. Policy Genius. It is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Just go to policygenius.com. Okay, Donald writes, I love your show. I've got $10,000 in a Vanguard Intermediate Bond Fund, $9,000 in a short-term bond fund. I also have a Merrill Edge Roth option, no money in it. Might you recommend dropping $7,000 into the Roth from one of these funds? Please advise. No. Why would you leave Vanguard? Are these both Roth accounts? I don't understand what's happening. Don, I need more info. But generally speaking, stay in Vanguard if you can. If you need a Roth IRA, then open one up at Vanguard. Val, 71, she's still working. She's considering a new financial advisor. She goes, I've got $200,000 invested with 2 funds. The return's pitiful. The new advisors are planning to put monies in 7 positions that will pay $625 per month. So that's, she says, a rate of return of 4.7. It's not a rate of return. It's a yield. Is that fair? Do I reinvest the money again? Are there higher paying dividend funds? Why can't I invest in them? Val, do you really need a financial advisor? I need more information. This is really important for me because I don't know what you're trying to do. I don't know how. Do you need to live off this money? If so, might we be able to create a different kind of portfolio for less money, less cost for you? That's a question. Janet is 82. She's in good health. She lives alone, limited income. And she says she's got $185,000. Am I making a mistake by keeping my money in a low-risk, low-return, computer-controlled program? No, there's no, that absolutely not. And finally, a question about survivor benefits. Okay, by the way, I'm just going to say this overall. Any questions about Social Security where it's like a funky, should I get this person's? Should I get that person's? Am I entitled to this, that, or the other thing? The best thing you can do is go to Social Security, to call them, go to an office, get confirmation. I know it sounds horrible, but I just must say that's really the best way to do it. Okay, it's been great. A great show. Another great show. Thank you so much for listening. Mark and I are grateful that you take the time out of your busy lives to spend a little bit of your precious time with us. If you've got any questions, hop on to JillOnMoney.com, click the contact button, or send us an email, askjill@JillOnMoney.com. We'll see you next week.